The Hearthstone Masters Tour in Seoul, South Korea continues into round 10. A quick peek into the PC bong. You see Eddie sitting down there. You see Hypno, who made a pretty deep run in Vegas, watching along some of the other matches. Welcome back to the commentator's desk. Frodan and Brian Kibler, who is staying as far away from me as the caster desk as possible. Clearly, he didn't get the MO that you're supposed to come in and get chummy with your fellow casters. It's okay. Maybe you heard that. Maybe you heard that I got the measles from Evo a couple weeks ago.
I literally just touched you, man.
It's too late now that you're in here.
God,
spreading the virus. Spreading the virus. Hope you guys have enjoyed the broadcast so far. Going into round number 10, we have the field shaping up a little bit. I mean, we gave you a little standings update prior to round 9, showing that we had one player undefeated. But starting from this round onwards, we will possibly have no players undefeated, and we'll see who is positioning themselves for the top 8 cutoff in the dual tournament stage.
Yeah, we're getting really down to the wire here. We have players who've been performing well so far need to continue that performance in order to actually make it through to that cutoff, and it's do or die situation for a lot of them.
That's right. So coming up next, we got another match. Let's go ahead and check out who we have. Looks like deads17 is back with his aggressive rogue, as we do want to get some of the follow-up from the previous series that we saw with him versus Casey in round number 9.
Yeah, and we saw just how powerful that rogue deck is against the mages, right? That's one of the predictions we actually made at the top of the day yesterday, was that these aggressive rogue decks, aggressive warrior decks would really be in position to punish the high number of mages that are in this tournament. And, that is how he's got to this point so far, I assume.
All right. His opponents, who we haven't seen on camera just yet, but I said we're going to show his username. Apologies, we don't know all the players by face. We do see a lot of their usernames in the bracket, which you guys can follow along with us at battlefight.com/esports. If you guys can, of course, follow us also all on social media. HS Esports on Twitter has also been posting updates and whatnot. So if you need to step away, you can keep following along. How have you been enjoying day number 2 so far, just the weekend, Killer?
It's been great. Today we've seen a number of the more unusual decks having a lot of success, and I do think that a lot of people came into this tournament thinking, oh, it's just gonna be mages, and yes, there are a lot of mages, right? And we have, however, been seeing a lot of these mages taken down by a lot of the decks that people are playing in anticipation of the high density of mages in the metagame. We've seen the rogues, we've seen the priests, we've seen the Highlander hunters. So a lot of different styles of decks that are seeing success even in the very densely mage-heavy metagame.
All right, well, we'll see if that ends up being the case. Is Dead's going up against another mage, or perhaps one of those anti-mage deck lists, with Warrior, of course, being the fear of every deck trying to kill mage, right? Because the idea is you have a mage deck that you bring, you have a mage that beats the Warrior decks, because that's pretty much mage's best matchup, and then you have Warrior, which kills everything that's trying to kill mage. The rock, paper, scissors. And it looks like we're going to be featuring Liz. Liz playing a Hunter deck, and with the secrets and Siamat, heavily implies that is the Highlander Hunter.
Yeah, and frankly, this is another good matchup for the Rogue. One of the reasons that you bring this Hunter deck is that you expect people to be playing Mage and Warrior. And however, the Highlander Hunter deck is vulnerable to aggressive strategies, and doesn't get much more aggressive than this Rogue deck. We saw just in the last match, Deads really put the pressure on Casey, with those hooked scimitars, with Leroy, with all of the tools that he had at his disposal.
Yep, trying to pull up the deck list to see what we're going to be looking at. There is that down teamer Brand and Siamat, but it does seem to be mainly a secret package here.
Right, and this is really interesting from Deads here. He chooses to coin out the Bloodsteel Raider. And this does a couple of things. One, it plays around Freezing Trap on his Henchclan Thug. If you just on turn 2 hero power, and then turn 3 you play your Thug. This way you have your Raider in play to break a trap right away, and then your larger minion still has the opportunity a couple turns down the road to avoid having that end up answering it.
It's true. One of the really key things about this Hunter deck is if they get an early game board presence, that's when they tend to be in a down position, because if they're able to sneak in damage, down teamer Brand becomes way scarier, because that 8 damage represents a lot more than just the initial 8. And so, like you said, activating the Freezing Trap, but as a trade-off, Dads, of course, loses the coin and the ability to develop anything this turn. But I think based off the way the game has panned out, I think he's okay with it.
Snip Snap is a nice draw for Lys here. It's actually, well, it's a nice draw in terms of an option to play this turn that's not just going to get backstabbed down, but it is a poor draw because it is his last mech to go alongside that Ursatron. You know, it's probably the best thing he could develop this turn, but does weaken the sort of value he has moving forward because he loses that Death Rattle from his mother mech.
Right. However, if there's no backstab to answer the Ursatron, the payoff is pretty huge.
Right.
Seems like Lys is going to take it conservatively, though. Don't blame him for this choice.
Yeah, this is more resilient to a backstab. All right, he's just going to go ahead and go face here. Decides I'm not going to bother backstabbing this. It's going to leave bodies on the board anyway.
Yeah, it
Makes
leaves similar power,
right.
if anything. Ooh, Houndmaster Shaw!
Oh, that is such a big draw for Lys here. That actually allows him to use this Snip Snap with the Microboss to clear off this board. And you know, Dead's getting a little punished for his decision to leave that up.
It's a big punish. The Rogue on turn 4 needs to start turning the corner. I know that sounds very silly to say, right? Like, oh, turn 4 is like the beginning of the end game for the Rogue, but you do want to kill him very often by like turn 6 or 7, and you need minions to do that.
Yeah, and you know, look at this. Lys is at 28 now, going into his 5th turn.
Right.
With you know this, he can play Ursatron Snake Trap if he wants and save the Zilliax to potentially just suit up on the Ursatron.
Right.
Or use separately if this does get killed.
Yeah, I like the Ursatron and the Snake Trap. And that gives Lys reactive capabilities rolling into the Tiamat turn. Deads with the Captain Greenskin, giving, you know, a reasonable amount of plus attack to his weapon. There's Bran.
Bran, and this is the Zilliax on the Ursatron, so...
Yeah, and while there hasn't been a lot of damage done, or actually no damage done whatsoever, the idea is that Bran can start even turning that corner, or you can preemptively set it up by playing Tiamat into Bran.
Sap was a nice draw here for Deads at least, able to get rid of the magnetic portion of the Zilliax that's connected to this. I like that we're getting the Korean vocal sounds for all of the minions here.
Sounds a lot more intimidating
It
when
does.
Hench Clan Thug's yelling at me in a
I don't know what
language.
that means, but I'm scared.
It's just a lot of loud noises. So Tiamat or Bran can answer this 4-4. I personally like the Tiamat a little better, given that Bran having the King Crush be a healthy 8/8 seems to be much better. However, we do know Deads in his main deck does not have that hard target removal. In the previous series, you saw him tech in Walk the Plank as an option. So I don't think you get to be afraid of it just yet.
Yep. Tiamat with Divine Shield and Rush here. Take this down cleanly.
I wonder if he's even contemplating being greedy, because obviously he wants to take Rush here to shut down the Hench Clan Thug. It's about the second option that he wants beyond the Rush. Is it a Divine Shield? Is it something else?
28 life still from Lys, has not taken damage except for 2 dagger swings. I don't know what that means.
I think that it called it a landlubber in Korean.
Okay.
Which I'm not exactly sure if it translates one-to-one, but if it did, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Okay, so now Lys has the opportunity to simply let Deads deal with everything. Can go very wide on the board with the Hyena Alpha, the Sunreaver Spy, and just let Lys pick up the pieces. Alternatively, can also just play Eagle Horn Bow. Playing Bran in this spot, is there a real punish on Deads' end? Let me see. Not really. There's one sap that's already been used, and even then sapping either of those targets aren't great.
But I feel like playing Sunreaver Spy and Hyena Alpha here, you can get a big board presence and get weave your hero power in this turn. Force your opponent to try and deal with this. This way, I guess you just can go 14 to the face right now, and that does just like leave lethal in play for next turn, though.
It's true. It's just it forces them to deal with the 8/8, and without the single target removal like we talked about, it requires some finesse here from Deads' deck.
Get him.
By all means.
That adds up to lethal next turn. 26 life, 7 on the board.
Celiax, is that a punish? Celiax SI.
Zilliax SI does
Clears
clear the well. There's a snake trap.
Oh, you're right. You're right. It clears everything but the brand of the snake traps.
Right. That's a very good draw for Deads here. And it's actually also sort of part of the I mean, it wasn't specifically what I was thinking about when I was thinking about the the possibility of Sun Reaver plus Hyena last turn, but making your board wide and still having the King Crush in hand is a better plan for board control,
Right.
Than this King Crush was last turn,
And even more mana efficient too.
right?
So then Deads.
I want to hear the Korean Unity Precision Perfection. Wait, that was English. I've been ruined. I was.
Wait, Kibler, you speak Korean?
Wow. Whoa.
Oh wait, no, I speak Korean now.
Yeah.
I understand everything
I
they're
have
saying.
a universal translator. Is this Star Trek?
He didn't attack. That would be awesome. I was telling Derek, imagine the money we'll save if we just started devolving all of our commentary into caveman grunts to make every sound in Hearthstone.
Are we just casting to everyone now? Can they understand us all?
Kibler has finally ascended to be all things to all people. Oh man, they pulled a fast one on us.
Yeah. I was so excited to hear what it was, and then it was just Unity Precision Perfection.
I will type it into Google Translate for you. How about that?
All right. I want to know. At some point, they're just going to change it back, and we're going to be like, wait, what? What? All right, well, the Unleash the Beast plus Brand does get through this Zilliax. There's still 14 that can go face. It's got to be scary now, though, because now there's 7. I think you need to trade with something. Maybe not. If there's 7 on the board, 8 kills you. Leroy, yeah, you gotta trade. Okay, full trading.
I mean, still very much 2-turn lethal setup, and Deads does not have the lethal of his own, unless does he have preparation in his deck?
I don't
think
believe so. Zephyrus? What can Zephyrus do?
Well, it could give him something to stall on the board.
Right.
So
There's 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, plus fatigue, unfortunately, for Deadsy in terms of looking at what... Because if he Zephyrus and, say...
Betrayal?
Zephyrus into Betrayal. Ooh, yeah. Yeah, that can actually do it. Zephyrus into Betrayal keeps him alive. He can Zephyrus into Betrayal on Siamat, leaves just 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. He can play Double Cat.
Well, we're going to look to see the other 2 options. I'm trying to think if there's any other 2 mana plays. Whirlwind.
Savagery. It's gotta be the Betrayal.
Betrayal takes the most damage off the board.
Right. A Betrayal on Siamat. It kills both big beasts. And then I think you just go face here.
Yes, 100%. And now, with 13 damage, Liz has to make up the 6.
Right. Explosive Trap.
Stops. Well,
no, it doesn't stop. Yeah, I think Zephyrus may have gotten Deads out of this situation. The perfect card.
Well, the secret does provide bluff value.
Right.
And it makes it difficult for Deads to deal with something. We saw this in yesterday's series.
Yeah, the thing is that the second secret, the explosive trap still doesn't beat weapon plus deadly plus Leroy, right?
Right. Unless it's freezing trap.
Right. Well, if you can't beat freezing trap if you have Leroy, and you're relying on Leroy anyway, so you just have to go for it. So down to 6, and yeah, ticks 1 point of fatigue, goes down to 5. And yeah, his only real option here is to just go for it, I think.
Is there there is actually an alternative lethal, I think. If you waggle pick double deadly poison, that's 8 damage plus SI. That's 10, and then you bounce. Oh, you can't break the weapon.
Is he Pharaoh Catting? If you Pharaoh Cat, you can't Leroy. You can't waggle pick deadly Leroy if you Pharaoh Cat. Does he have something else? Wait, what's going on?
So he's testing for snipe.
Okay, but oh, you don't need to waggle pick because you have double. Yeah, just the weapon. Right. This is enough. Okay.
Wow.
This is just better.
Assuming it's not the
freezing.
The freezing trap, correct. But he did play around snipe too, incidentally.
Right. Yeah.
Which is very
important. That was just a better version of what I was suggesting he do. And yeah, the Leroy is exactly enough this way.
Well done.
Yeah. So that was a game where Lys was at 28 for a very long time, and I wonder if the Lys deciding to go as aggressive as he did was really his downfall there, because he had the option to play a more board control focused game,
right?
And use his minions to develop a wider board, use his minions to clear things off rather than just going crush the face. It left him without as many individual attacks,
right?
And I feel like if he had developed more to the board, he would have had enough pressure to win the game over the same period, but had more attacks to actually sort of counter push against the minions.
I'm in agreement, because not only that, it's mana efficiency, which means an extra hero power, which means if an extra 2/2 survives on the board, maybe he actually gets that extra damage to win the game.
Yes.
So I think it changes the landscape enough where maybe Rogue is playing a little bit more defensive instead of aggressive, because they have that 19 life instead of 13 to 14, which feels a lot scarier when there's like a 6 attack.
Yeah, it's also true that like your opponent, you can put your opponent in a position where like they're like, okay, well if you have Bran, I'm dead.
Right.
And whereas if you've already played your Bran, you're like, oh, I know I'm at this like life total, and you leave yourself with no opportunity for your opponent to make a mistake based around playing around your hand.
Yeah, and with that deck in particular, I've ran into that issue specifically when playing in, climbing the Legend and in Legend. It's where the Rogue's deck has a lot of really single target powerful attacks, but they can't deal with wide boards very well. So a lot of times you're forced to
Betrayal,
except for Betrayal of Zephyrus. So because you're forced to go into an attack mode, you often say, well, you have to have it. And let me tell you, they a lot of times have Bran, and I lose a lot because of it. But it's like, this is just my best play.
Right. And I mean, I do want to point out just how important the Zephyrus was to that game, and that's the reason people include that card in the deck, because it gives you not only the ability to find lethal in a situation when you have Myra's your deck away, but also the ability to get out of a sticky situation like that one.
Right. Right, and of course you get some really fun stuff too with Waggle Pick in late game scenarios. I can't tell you how many times I've been able to play Zephyrus, Waggle Pick it, and then get double Zephyrus and do some real cool fun shenanigans.
Yeah.
So let's go into game number 2. Deads does have the ability to switch to another variant of his Rogue in Specialist. Let me see if there's anything that he would include.
I feel like having a version of Rogue dedicated to beating Hunter, it would be a overkill, really, because your game 1 is so strong against them. Typically, you want to either have well, there's a Chef Nomi in Deads' deck, so I don't know if that is that actually so it's a secondary deck. Okay.
Yes, the secondary deck has Chef Nomi and a Togwaggle scheme.
Interesting.
Which is very unusual.
I am very confused by that decision.
In fact, it kind of goes full anti-control because it has Highspear and Togwaggle as well.
Really?
So
that's somewhat surprising me. I mean, I think we need to take a look at what Lys may have swapped into himself, because that can at least sort of give us some sort of insight into.
He switched to his secondary with Bloodsail Corsair as an option. And you know what? That actually makes sense. So Deads knows that there's anti-weapon measures, therefore he has to be less dependent on his weapons to end the game and find other alternatives.
Okay.
That being said, he keeps his Waggle Picks in his secondary deck. We've seen a lot of Rogues and Specialists, when they start getting less dependent on that, play more Togwaggle scheme, they take out Waggle Picks because they're trying to play more of their Highspear and Togwaggle.
So what is he actually taking out of this deck in order to fit in?
He took out his Saps, he took out his Southsea Deckhands, and he took out... what looks like to be... Oh no, it's just those. He took out his Southsea Deckhand, took out Sap, and he put Togwaggle Scheme, and he put in Chef Nomi. And then where's the Highspear and Togwaggle come from? Let me see. He took out an SI7 agent.
Okay, interesting. Yeah, I do suppose that Sap is a pretty bad card in this matchup.
Yeah, when they play Bran, you're like, huh, Sap doesn't do anything.
Their big minions are Bran and Siamat, which are like,
great cards to bounce back.
Right. Okay, I can buy that if it's like a minor shaving of inefficient cards for the matchup rather than sort of more pairing your deck into a anti-control type deck, which is typically what you do see when stuff like Nomi and Togwaggle comes in. All right, well. Pharaoh Cat comes down. Hooked Scimitar comes down. Dead's here. Gonna walk, I believe, into was it a freezing? No, it was not. So he had no information as to whether that was freezing. So I think it's Snake and Pressure Plate now that I'm actually getting caught back up and thinking about the game rather than looking at deck lists. So definitely a selection of traps which Lys is not thrilled about, particularly in this situation, because now he's facing a pretty awkward board. I wonder if last turn, given his secrets, if he would have been better off playing the Zephyrus and finding like Shadow Bolt. There's a Cleave, an Ooze, and a Silence.
I mean, he already has 2 forms of weapon removal in his deck already with the Ooze that's in his deck, as well as the Bloodseer Corsair. So I don't know if he needs even more weapon removal versus stabilization on the board. Right.
Well, this is why I'm actually thinking back to last turn, where Lys just played the bow. And I think perhaps he was hoping that Deads would respect the possibility of Freezing Trap and not attack with that Henchclan Thug. However, the fact that he just played a bow meant that he had an obvious way to remove a Pharaoh Cat, so he couldn't rely on that at all.
Yeah, this doesn't feel good when you're starting the midpoint of the game at half-life.
And last game, he was at 28 until like turn 7 and lost.
Right.
And this game, he's at 16.
Yes. However, Deads does have a little bit clunkier deck, right? He has played Tagwago, Chef Nomi, so that will clog up the hand a little more. Yeah,
but I just wonder from Lys's perspective, for instance, if he would have perhaps been in a better position if he had played the Zephyrus the turn before and looked for Soulfire to kill the 4/4.
That's also a possibility, you're right.
But
so, how important is this Acidic Swampooze versus playing, say, like other cards like Zilliax?
I like the Ooze from Lys's position here because it is taking off a very threatening 0 mana 4 damage on the board.
Oh man,
this is all the cards that you don't actually want in your deck.
Well, I actually think that could be a good pickup because of the Hook Scimitar, but he chooses to play Zephyrus here.
Well, the Zephyrus only really does anything if you actually play your Myras, and he just wants to trigger that and be able to just eviscerate the next
Except
turn.
it gives a Zilliax.
That's true. That is true.
That's my only...
Though, to be fair, Zilliax is still problematic when you have to attack anyway.
It's true. Yeah, it's true, and at least it pulls out the Divine Shield. I wonder if Deads even wants to Togwaggle scheme his opponent's Zephyrus.
Ooh, that's actually a pretty good draw.
Oh, that's a big draw.
That is
what?
That's probably the best draw in Deads' deck. This actually sets him up to be able to just swing for 2 turns for lethal here.
That was nuts.
There's what, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. So Lys needs.
Oh, is that lethal?
That's it. That is. I just counted out 13. That's 21. 19 life.
I'm telling you, a lot of times his rogue deck's like, all right, well, if you have Brain, you got me.
Yeah.
And got him.
Yeah, and that was a matter of I gotta find the damage that I need to kill you before you find the damage you need to kill me. Yeah. And King Crush gets the job done.
I mean, we knew that Lys was okay because he had Siamont and Divine Shield Taunt as a way to get into the way, and we know that Sap was taken out of Dreads' secondary deck, Deads' secondary deck, excuse me. So. Still would have been an uphill climb for the Rogue to say the least, but that brand sealed the deal at that very moment.
Yeah, and all better to kill your opponent than sit in a position where you can stay alive, right? I mean,
exactly.
There's always a possibility, like maybe Myra's into, he actually had already used Eviscerate. So you can't even Myra's into Eviscerate, but
yeah, it could have been like Myra's like done into like more stuff if you had like deadly poisons and other ways to push damage. You never really know. That rogue deck has sometimes pulled out the most absurd wins with Myra's.
I do want to say I am slightly skeptical of this secondary deck that Deads has chosen to use because we saw Nomi and Togwaggle scheme in hand that game, and I would rather have an SI than both of those cards.
Yes.
Like, literally, the way that game played out, if he had SI instead of both of those cards, he's better off.
Or Southsea Deckhand.
Yeah.
That would have been efficient damage.
Deckhand would have gotten a little bit more damage, and maybe that's just lethal. If he had Deckhand in one of those early turns.
Kibler, you're speaking my language. I want so much damage. I cut things like Fairy Dragon and Henchine Thug for Sinister Strikes.
The The thing that makes the Rogue deck good against the Hunter deck is the fact that it kills you so quickly.
Yeah.
And using a version of your deck which slows down just doesn't make sense to me.
Yeah,
I could be missing something.
If anything, it plays into their hand.
Exactly.
Then things like Zul'jin and other cards are more relevant because you're playing cards like Chef Nomi, which plays to the late game, so you give more value to their cards. And you know, part of the point of aggressive decks is that you're supposed to invalidate a good portion of their late game.
Exactly.
Like cards like Alex Straza and Pocket Galaxy, or sorry, Luna's Pocket Galaxy and Yag Saran's Box. Like those cards are like hard to play, but if you like let the game continue to drag on to the point where you want to play Togwaggle Scheme, you're getting those cards value.
Yeah. And I wonder if we'll see Dead stick with that same deck, or if that game changes his mind about how exactly he wants to approach it.
We will see. Going into game number 3. The winner of this improves to a 9-1 record and puts themselves in prime position to make top 8. This would be a big win for Lys, as we do know that China tends to struggle on the international stage in competitive Hearthstone for whatever reason. We could list off several of them, of which historically has been the case. But one thing that's for sure is that we have never had China really take these global competitions before as the champion region. They've come close. They've gotten second a handful of times.
They literally won global games last year.
Okay, in these big individual big open competitions.
It was just the specific wording you used was kind of
Sorry,
funny.
you're right.
Given the
any tournament ever, they've never won. Hearthstone Global Games they did win. That was an invitational, and we'll see if they can follow up on their Hearthstone Global Games performance.
There we go. There we go. All right. Well, crucially here, Deads does have the coin, which is very powerful for Rogue in general. I think Rogue is the only class that, if you look at the data, has a higher win rate on the coin than off the coin, or at least historically that was true.
You mean in all of Hearthstone history? Because Mage does really well with the coin too.
Sure. I think that globally throughout the existence of Hearthstone, Rogue is
the most dependent.
Yeah,
on
Rogue has had
sure.
the highest.
Yeah, because of the mechanic combo. But
right.
when you look at Mana Worm and all that stuff in the past, it was very nice with the coin.
Yeah, that's true. There are certainly certain decks, but Rogue as a class in general, I think, uses the coin the best.
Yeah. The one exception might be the odd Rogue meta, which is odd Rogue just wanted to go first all the time and just punch you.
Yeah. Speaking of punching, coining out a miscreant here I was actually thinking that there's some argument to try coin out something else.
Yes.
The Restless Mummy, by the way, the
Super
result
good.
for Deads here on that Pharaoh Cat, which is really strong.
Yeah, can you hang on to that really a little longer for me to emphasize it more?
Oh, I mean that card is outrageous.
That card is disgustingly good in slot scenarios, and Mana Addict also is not very good right now, but it has potential to pop off later. So a lot of latent and active power here for Deads.
Ooh, Explosive Trap is a nice draw for Lys here. The Hyena Alpha definitely coming down first, but Explosive Trap is a good way for him to answer this wider board.
Yeah,
along with Unleash the Hound. This is actually a fantastic situation for Lys in terms of finding a lot of the powerful tools he has.
Right.
And frankly, Dead's just picking up this Dread Corsair. I wouldn't be surprised to see a Goblin Lackey into Hooked Scimitar into the Corsair, which would trigger this Rat Trap, which is up. Nope, gonna go with the Restless Mummy, as it is, as you're saying, disgustingly powerful. Now he knows this isn't Snake Trap. That's the first turn he's actually attacking to a minion. So I believe he has full knowledge that this is exactly Rat, because he's already coined, so he has triggered the possibility for Pressure Plate as well.
Yeah, well said. How important is this Subject 9, by the way?
It's really a card.
It's so good because it stops you from drawing the other secrets. That way, pretty much what you're drawing is usually high impact.
That is a very nice draw there. Thinning out the deck, getting some more power. And now this means Waggle Pick doesn't need to run the risk of popping this Rat Trap by using the Lackey. Can still get the Dread Corsair online.
Yeah, and I think Dreads with 3 weapons in the hand needs to really get swinging, and Captain Grease can even get another charge.
All right, well, there's multiple removal options. I could see just playing the Ooze Ooze Houndmaster Shah here removes the weapon and gives you the ability to attack into whatever minion remains.
I like it.
There is a little bit of trouble if perhaps the Miscreant gets bounced, but you do have the Rat Trap up. So if your opponent is playing comboing out the Miscreant, they can't actually take a great advantage of the fact that it's discounted because, well, if they're just playing a bunch of things out in a turn, you get a 6/6.
Yeah, I like the Ooze and Houndmaster Shaw here. Ooh, it's nice.
Yep.
Now Liz can kill and stick something into the board.
Yep. And this is a really strong position for Liz. We said this in game 1 though. We said that Liz is in a great position. He's so high. Oh, and there's Togwaggle.
Well, so he knows that 5 of the cards in hands are secrets.
Right.
Or at least 4 of them. I think maybe one of them naturally drawn.
4 of the cards were drawn off of Subject 9.
So many.
Which actually technically means that you know that there's 5 secrets in hand because you know that the other one was drawn.
He is very desperate to kill off his Houndmaster Shaw.
And I mean, having to use your lackey here when you just do Togwaggle. I mean, that's another thing about going with the Togwaggle plan is that you put yourself in a position where you have to use your cards in a certain way in order to maximize your Togwaggle, right? Like you are in a really awkward position of like, okay, I gotta now generate another lackey. You'd obviously love on turn 7 to play lackey into Togwaggle, but because of how this has played out, he was forced to use this lackey and is now just kind of in an awkward position.
Yeah, I was calculating how much damage Deads could have perhaps gone if he ignored Houndmaster Shaw and tried to like race, but I just looked at Liz's hand. I just see the Zul'jin.
Yeah.
That puts a hard stop in 2 turns. Things are looking very good for the Hunter player. And Deads is going to actually very much need that Heist Baron Togwaggle, which is somewhat of like an interesting like bottleneck, right? Like because Deads put Heist Baron Togwaggle on his deck needs that to activate in order to win. Right. And that's like a result-oriented thing. Like if he does win, it'll be like, see, I won because of Heist Baron Togwaggle.
The Nomi draw, like these are just so awkward. I honestly just don't understand this choice of going to the secondary deck for Deads here.
Right. Like we get why the deck exists.
Right.
Yeah. Just whether or not it's actually the right
for
choice.
this matchup, it just feels like you're putting yourself behind in a matchup where it is so crucial that you stay ahead.
Yeah. Also, I think the weapon traffic jam is something like a lot of times this deck can get stuck into, which is why I am a lot of times okay just coining Hook Scimitar and just whacking the face. Get the damage investment early.
Get him.
Yeah. I know you want to get the Miscreant out from value. Just something to think about.
Well, and this is also another situation. You're trading cheap cards in your deck for expensive cards, which makes it that much harder to activate your combo cards.
Well, to add insult to injury, Liz just keeps healing.
Right.
And Deads is like
He's
using his own life to trade, and it's just not getting to the point. Yes, Deads needs this to be like deckhand and SI, interestingly enough, so he could activate everything else.
I mean, the Rat Trap up makes any of these things more complicated, right? But I feel like just having these expensive cards in your hand is just not the way to win this matchup.
Right. I think there is value for Liz to hero power here instead of play secret, given that it does not have the guaranteed good play of filling in his mana the following turn. But I think Liz wants to protect the board the best he can, and also set up for Zul'jin in the future turns. Okay, Waggle Pick into Evil Miscreant. Finds Cobalt Lackey.
Yeah,
it's a good start.
But this gives him a 6/6.
Yeah, and I think it's time to start whacking face. It's really slow process, but it needs to happen. There's absolutely no way that you can justify attacking a 1/1, nor do you want to pause here because you have 6 weapon swings that you need to go through.
Yeah, he is weapon flooded.
I mean, just look, he has 24 damage worth in weapon. Oh, is that just lethal?
Bloodlust here is 9. Yeah,
it's very much lethal.
Bloodlust is just game here off the Zephrys
or
here.
Savage Roar
anything.
or anything.
Fireball.
Yes. Zephrys locking the game. Liz is thinking very hard about this.
I mean, Zephyrus, could be anything, right? It could be a boat, so you got to think, okay, what are the things it could be? And then you're gonna eventually figure out one of them is gonna be lethal. And yeah, Wind Fury, that's the fancy one. I can appreciate that.
Yeah, and that's gonna wrap up the series. Lys from China takes the win, advances into round 11 with a 9-1 score, and could be one of the first Chinese players to enter a top 8 at a Masters Tour event.
Yeah, and I really do feel like that is typically a very bad matchup for the Hunter, but I think that Dead's made it easier for him. I do think by leaning on the particular secondary deck, and it's possible that there's some dynamic that I'm missing here, but looking at that Nomi in hand, looking at that Togwalk in hand, both games they look terrible. And it felt like in the second game, if he just had a deckhand, if he just had an SI, he could have won. It was close.
Yeah. I agree, Kid, but I've only been playing 2 decks on ladder this season. I play Aggro Rogue and I play Aggro Warrior. Because I want to kill the mages. I want them to play Pocket Galaxy so I can dunk them. And I'm in full agreement with you. I think you're spot on. A lot of those cards look really dead. He needed combo activators. He needed to get the weapons out in time, but he couldn't do any of them. And he died with his best cards in his hand.
In game 2, if those 2 cards were each 2 damage, he won.
Right.
Like, and frankly, they would have been 2 damage and something because they would have had to get removed. So I don't know what the thought process is that gets you to playing that deck in that matchup, because what gives you a structural advantage is your speed, and you're making your deck slower.
Yeah. His tertiary deck also had no game because it had Walk the Plank and other cards that he can't really use with Betrayal. So a lot of questions to be asked, but Deads is not eliminated yet, and we'll give you full update on what's happening in round 10 when we come back to the Hearthstone Masters Tour in Seoul, South Korea.